Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Man, if you watched the debate tonight, you probably, if you're coming from the same political spectrum I am, you're going to kind of just say that was a bunch of nonsense. At times, it seemed like one opponent was being opposed by three people. The same two bits for both sides, for the talking heads keep coming up. The border's a big issue. We need to do something about it, but, the current administration is allowing this to happen, but, that's just me speaking. But overall, I was going to say the debate was nauseating. There was some stuff about guns. That's why I watched it. Again, both deny that they're going to do anything to guns. I don't trust either of them, to be bluntly honest, because, well, one of them is exactly the one that put us in the situation we're in. The other one's part of an administration that has been one of the most active towards curtailing our rights, which is really hard to do, considering that, Obama was pretty good at trying to curtail, but he could never get anything passed. The Biden administration has gotten some things done sneaky Petely because of what Trump did to allow that stuff to slide with the ATF. And as much as I know that Trump is probably the better option of the two, I really start thinking about, habitual line crosser, HLC, Buff Franklin for president. If you don't know who Buff Franklin is, go look that up on YouTube and laugh at the video. And as you can tell, it's a joke. You're not going to vote for a B-52 and a raccoon. But I'm almost, I am at that point. I'm not at almost. I'm at that point where I don't believe the federal government can do us any good. And that them not being capable of doing anything is probably the best thing for not only the United States, but for everyone in the world. That a lot of debate was passed back and forth about how they're going to end the Ukraine war. I honestly think that, judging by what I've seen, because I follow geopolitics, that it's not going to be won on day one of anyone's presidency, or even when they're being elected or before they get elected. And I think that being said, because the Russians really are in it to win it, you can't lose 500,000 people or close to that and as much armor and equipment without sticking to it until you're done. And when I say you're done, either you win the war or you, lose. And with Ukraine making increasing incursions into Russia, because they have invaded Russia proper, the Kursk region, and they've been able to strike Moscow with drones, this is a huge tangle that I don't foresee the federal, the government, I was about to say the federal government, but the government, the U.S. government, to back away from NATO. I think there's too much on the line for things we need here in the United States that are dependent on other people, because neither administration has really done enough to onshore manufacturing here. And we saw that during COVID when most of the PPE and all the other stuff was made in China. Some of our meds are made in China. More than half of the fentanyl precursors to build or to make the fentanyl comes from China. China's in a huge demographic crash themselves, just like Russia. And, two enemies or frenemies that get together, I could see them teaming up to start World War III, or we interceding in Ukraine in some stupid way before the election is even held, and that causing Article 5 to be activated. So I don't know that either candidate would get us out of a war or can get us out of one right now, period, because I think we're so into the weeds in that particular scenario. As far as Taiwan, That's been a big debate of if China could go get Taiwan. I mean, it's not that far from them that their Navy is capable to get to Taiwan, but not past Taiwan. What would that get them? A lot of guys keep saying a lot of our chip manufacturing, but most of the chips that they would attempt to get would be AI chips. So AI, while it's a cool tool right now and a cool thing to start building on, there's still a lot of discussion and debate on where to put it. And if those chips went away, I think we would be okay for a while. More importantly, those manufacturing hubs that China would want to get, they don't have the expertise to run. And there's also fail-safes in the actual equipment that if they don't receive updates from the United States or from one of their other Western vendors, they self-destruct or they just won't operate. That would curtail the manufacturing of any of those chips for us to worry about. That's enough of that type of thing. I had one of my really good friends that I've known for, since high school. He called me to ask about some things about the Kalashnikov rifle. He's assembled several AR-15s, and I say assembled because you don't actually build them. A lot of guys will say, I built it. No, you assembled some stuff. There's a difference between building an AR-15 or assembling an AR-15 and building an engine. Building an engine, you are taking the same type of mentality, but you have to know a hell of a lot more, and you have to do a hell of a lot more to get an engine running than you would an AR-15. An AR-15 can be handled by assembled, maintained by an American or by a Westerner better than we could ever maintain anything else. And that's some crow I've had to eat over the years because I've always been an AK guy. And after using them and building a quality AR-15, I would stand it up against my AK any day of the week. And as I've said before on this podcast, I'd probably, if Western society melts down, it's probably one of my go-to rifles, if not my go-to rifle. And it's because of its reliability, its caliber, the ability that I have to support it if I need to. Those are big factors for me choosing something like that. And that's if I chose that caliber. The other caliber I've said before is a .308. And talking to my friend, he was like, well, I'm still partially interested in building an AK. What would it take to do? And then we went through the process of the tools you would need to manufacture said item. And then we got into the weeds about what you have to do legally. Because if you build a gun, you have to have it serialized. That's ATF stuff, especially if you're ever going to get something that the ATF could come to your house and check out. Pardon me for a sec. But you also have to be 922R compliant. So I've talked about this before too, but a brief rundown of what it is. It's basically making the rifle have so many components in it that are American made. One of which, in the best case scenario, is a receiver. Okay, and then they have to be semi-automatic compliant because unless you register it, and even if you register it, if it wasn't manufactured before 1986, you're kind of hosed and you can't have it. That's just the way it is, unless you have one of those destructive device manufacturing things from the ATF. So don't do that, especially if you're like me and would prefer having less government entanglements that you can possibly have. But yeah, it was interesting conversation because it made me realize again what I've had the hard, stop on in Western society, especially as Kalashnikov ammunition gets more and more expensive and harder to find. Because we don't have it because it's Western sanctions that have bitten into the Russian cheap ammunition that we had forever. And that's a big turnoff for a lot of people. I mean, there's a case in point when it comes to Kalashnikov. There's now such a thing as a 300 blackout Kalashnikov. And it ballistically is no better or no worse than the 7.62 by 39. The difference really belongs to what projectiles you can put in it, because you're using Western 308 bullets basically, or 308 diameter. So that allows you a lot more flexibility and allows you to use, different loads, and they are suppressor ready if you do it right, and that's a big deal. I don't know that I would ever suppress a Kalashnikov, even an American one, and not so much because of the concentric threads of the barrel, but more so because of the piston pop. If you don't know what that is, get into the weeds with a suppressor, and you find out that direct impingement guns like the AR-15 or the AR-15 style, because they don't have a piston that's actuated by the gases venting from the cartridge going off, they don't make a audible pop when they cycle. And that makes them a little bit quieter, or actually a lot quieter. And if that's the type of thing you're going for with a suppressor. Now, hearing safe, that's different. If you're just doing a suppressor for the actual real valid reason of just having a hearing safe item, that's cool, and you're not really caring about the piston pop because it's just an added noise you're going to hear anyway. It can be as loud as a gunshot, though, and that's something you'd have to worry about. But it was nice to talk to him and explain, what I've come around to. The AR-15, for all of its growing pains it had, is not the AR-15 that was introduced in Vietnam. There are better manufacturing capabilities now than we had in the 60s and the 50s when the gun was designed. It has seen 60-plus years of combat one way or another. It has been refined and modularized in every way possible. It is about the most cutting-edge thing you can get. And the fact that you can get parts for it to support it, this is why it's part of America's most popular rifle, is because you don't need a lot of knowledge, and there's a lot of knowledge out there for people to transfer to you to make you effective with an AR-15. So that's all I have for you. I wanted to give you a quick rundown of what to expect. It's kind of what we already thought for the election. You're going to have to go with your gut on this one. I really don't see one candidate being an option if you're pro 2A, because you know their background. And notice I try to stay as neutral with sexes, because giving a sex away. But you can pretty much tell that this one side of the aisle has always been against guns. And while this other one may have done some things against the 2A, I'm willing to roll the dice with that guy versus the other guy, and that reason why is because of that alone. That maybe there's some vengeance involved here, and maybe they'll get rid of some agencies that don't need to be there. Like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, be great.